Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be sharing in this video some thoughts about the themes for 2024. And I'm going to do that quite broadly because at the turn of the year, I'm actually going to be filming a video with my good friend Kathy Rose in the US to give more month by month specific detail. And obviously, as we go through 2024, you'll be getting a lot of updates and very regular detail from me. So I just want to sort of paint some broad strokes for 2024, because I think it's going to be an extremely different year, not only from the last 4 years, which have been pretty contracted, I think we'd all agree, but different from, I think, any year we've ever known. It's truly going to be a historic year, a pivotal year, and a year where from the future we will look back and think, wow, that really was the turning point. And I think we've already entered the energy of that already. And I'm filming this on December the 6th. So, yeah, very different. I think 2024 will be a year of collective awakening. Collective awakening. It's going to be a year which is much more revolutionary, but with a great deal of excitement and possibility and opportunity coming in for us. And what I'd really like to suggest to you is that as we enter 2024, what is your lens? What is your perspective? Are you entering 2024 with fear, a lens of fear and trepidation, and oh my God, there are going to be so many changes, and the world is very unstable and in a terrible mess? Well, if you enter 2024 with that lens, your beliefs will be fulfilled, because that's how reality works. Our reality tends to fulfill whatever we believe, the perspectives we have. But if you enter 2024 with a lens of excitement, and this is going to be amazing, and how lucky are we to be alive at this time, you're going to have a very different experience. So I'd really, really suggest you set the lens on the camera, you set your lens on your perspective right now before we get into 2024. We are going to be moving away from fear, judgment, anxiety, doubt, deceit, illusions, and moving into the values. And I'd really like you to see these as the pillars or the principles around which you can weave your life. And I think they're very fundamental in moving forwards in 2024, and indeed are the kind of key ingredients for this expanded consciousness that we refer to as ascension, this expanded consciousness. And these values are integrity. I mean, Saturn in Pisces is all about spiritual integrity and spiritual maturity. So integrity, humility, love, compassion, and joy. So those are the values. And if you are having to make a shift to those values, they become new values for you, then you really will be creating a new you. But I think in general, all of us are going to be creating a new you, because we are weaving with the light to become homo luminous, that we are moving towards the light body, and we will do that in leaps, not in any kind of linear or gradual way through 2024. 2024 is going to be fast, and that's suggested by many astrological indicators. The fact that Pluto is moving into Aquarius for 9 months next year, and then fully at the end of the year in November for 20 years into Aquarius, which is an air sign, not a water sign. Air is fast, and Gemini is going to be moving in, Jupiter's going to be moving into Gemini in May. Again, another air sign. It's going to be fast. And so it's going to be eventful, dynamic. And so it's very important now that you find your center. Within seconds, you have a method of finding your anchor, your center, and whether that's just closing your eyes, watching your breath, or imagining that you're breathing in and out through your heart, or candle gazing, simply being in nature, listening to bird song, or if you're doing something creative where you can be sort of lost in that zone of no time, no space, but finding a way that you can very rapidly bring yourself back to center, back to your anchor. And I endlessly bang on, as I've done for, I think, pretty much a decade now, of the need to live from the inside out, not the outside in. Because when we live from the outside in, we're buffeted by external events, nightly news or drama going on in the world, and our energy is scattered and we give our power away. Whereas if we get up every morning and we decide from the first moment, okay, I'm going to dominate my day with love, I'm going to dominate today with joy, then you are living much more from the inside out. And that old trick with post-it notes all around your house, what are you thinking? What's your frequency? What's your emotional state? Keep checking. So it becomes a practice that you're living from the inside out. Because I think for many of us over the last 4 years, you may have felt, because they've been so harrowing and the events in the world are so harrowing, that you may have forgotten how to live with joy. But this isn't a rehearsal. This is our lives, and we have to find that joy in our lives. And I find it in simple, simple ways in nature, listening to the bird song, laughing with my neighbor's dog. I often say we tell each other cat jokes on our walks. And I just have really childlike joy at those moments, because we have to find a way of finding that in our very full and complex days. So I'd really remind you of that and get into that practice before we get into 2024. One of the reasons, I think, one of the main reasons, apart from it being so eventful next year, is that we are shifting into this higher frequency, which feels faster. And so find the point of stillness. Our power lies in the now, as Eckhart Tolle would agree. It lies in the moment, in the now. If we're worrying about the past or angsting about the future, we're giving away, we're leaking power. Be in the now, be in the moment. Next year, as some of you may know, this is Chinese astrology. It's the year of the wood dragon. And in Chinese astrology, I don't know a lot about Chinese astrology other than it operates on the 12-year Jupiter cycle, but it's very much about authority, sovereignty, leadership, being a leader in your own life. And you can do that in any capacity. Even you're a mum and you think you're not out in the world. You have the most important job in the world, bringing up children. And so be a leader in terms of the high principles that you stick to in moving through your days. It's very resilient, wood dragon. And I would suggest that we will need strength and resilience as we go through 2024. And what helps us is that we've got the North Node in Aries all of the year until January 2025. And Aries is very much about those qualities of leadership, our own sense of inner power, sovereignty, being a pioneer, going solo in your life, going off track from the mainstream. And there's some very strong themes of the Aquarian energy reinforcing that. We're going to see a lot more about dragon energy. I know many of you see dragons, or even people write to me all the time, they work with dragons to clear the darkness and bring in the light. So we're going to be seeing more dragon energy in however you experience that as we go through 2024. And again, that's powerful. As we tip into 2024, we have something very helpful. On the 30th of December 2023, we have Jupiter moving stationary direct. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It's the planet of our future vision. It's the planet of higher consciousness, higher knowledge. That will propel us into 2024. And on the very first day, 1st of January, we have Mercury moving direct too. So we have all of the planets moving direct, apart from Uranus, which will move direct on the 27th of January. All the planets are moving direct for quite some months. So there's this feeling of momentum, positivity from Jupiter. I feel that already on the 6th of December. I think even in the last week, there have been some very significant energy shifts, and many people are talking about this, and whether this is due to the surges in blue light, which Nancy Rebecca has been talking about, whether it's the photonic light, whether it's more truth coming to light, which we've had in the last just couple of days. All of those things will continue. and expand through 2024. And by the way, I'm going to be referencing a lot of videos, which I'll put underneath this video, the conversations with Nancy Rebecca. I'm also having, in the next few days, a conversation with David Farrell about the Capricorn solstice. That's going to be an astrological conversation with, and also with Magenta Pixie. We have some wonderful magical decodes together, principally her channeling around the Capricorn solstice. The Saturn in Pisces videos that I've done, the Pluto in Aquarius videos that I've done. So I will put many of these below so you don't have to go hunting for them. The eclipses will continue to fall in Aries and Libra, apart from one in September in Pisces. Apart from that, they will be in Aries and Libra all through 2024. So again, see where Aries and Libra signs fall in your chart, because they will activate those houses. There will be activation, change, energy in the houses in your birth chart that they represent. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can download a birth chart from my website, go to the link below and get a 2-part video series. And these aren't, this isn't a personal analysis of your chart. These are teaching videos to help you find the points in your own chart that I'm talking about in all of these updates. So one of the biggest astrological changes next year is going to be Pluto moving or re-entering Aquarius. It was in Aquarius for only 3 months. In 2023, it's going to be in Aquarius for 9 months. In 2024, and on November the 20th, it will fully move into Aquarius for 20 years. That will be the rest of our lifetimes for many of us. So this is a big deal. So what is Aquarius about? It's about freedom. It's about truth. It's about human rights. And it's about many, many things I'm going to be describing. It's very much about frequency. And how often do I talk about this? Really, really mastering the understanding that everything in our lives cascades from our frequency. Everything. We think it's coming from other people who are to blame, or that we can point fingers at and say it's all your fault. Everything comes from within us. I really watched how this works over the many years I've been on this planet, but also with people close to me, to see how it works. And so once we can accept that, we're actually much happier in our lives, because it's very empowering. You know, we start to have control of our reality rather than feeling buffeted. Mastery of our thoughts is going to be a super big deal. You think of the 2 jaggedy lines of Aquarius, and remember, Aquarius, as I say, is an air sign. So it's very much about our intellect, our thinking, our higher mind. And so what we're going to be experiencing in what is called the ascension is this expansion of consciousness, the expansion of our multidimensionality. And Pluto moving into Aquarius is a big part of that. But understanding that our thinking that provokes our emotional state, that is what we've got to get a grip on, really, to construct our reality more beautifully and to help the collective too. Now, as astrologers, we always go back, as meteorologists and economists do, to say, okay, so what happened last time in the last cycle? And that's what I've really done with that Pluto in Aquarius video that's below this one. So gone back to the 1200s, the 1500s, the late 1700s, when Pluto was last in Aquarius, because Pluto has a 248-year orbit. It's very slow. And yes, we can certainly draw some parallels that I expect to vortex upwards this time around, but it's absolutely not same old, same old. We can't rely on just repeating those same cycles, but in the 21st century, it's a whole game. It's a whole different ball game. And it's interesting that recently, Nancy Rebecca, in referring to the blue light beings, they described what we're going through as not just a transformation, but a complete metamorphosis as humanity, a complete metamorphosis where we are becoming the new human. We're becoming the Homo luminous. We are remembering those skills, talents, and abilities that we may have had many thousands of years ago, and very possibly birthing new ones. We are going to step back into becoming multidimensional beings. It's immensely exciting, but there's going to be an explosion, really, in innovation with technology, with medicine, genetics, science, healing technologies, going to be huge. And they are already emerging very rapidly onto our stage. It's going to be a paradigm shattering time, these next 21 years. And one of the reasons I say that I've referred to previously is one of the earlier times that Pluto was in Aquarius was in 1543 when Copernicus published his heliocentric theory. And that was paradigm shattering. We are going to have many of our paradigms shattered about what we thought about our world, our cosmos, our galaxies. I am fully open to have that all blown apart, because Aquarius is linked to the out there. It's ruled by Uranus, who was the sky god. So the skies, the heavens, the galaxies, the cosmos, the infinity, the galactic beings of which we are one, don't forget. All of that is what is going to be really shattered and fundamentally changed as we move through the next 21 years. So cosmology, just how we create our reality. I mean, it's very exciting that Nassim Haramein, the brilliant physicist, has created, has published recently a new unified theory of physics. And he says in the interviews he's done recently that they have given him a theory of, based on the physics, a theory of creation, a theory of how we create our reality, which is super exciting. I think there are going to be other people doing something similar, maybe not coming at it so much from the physics point of view as he's done, but there are going to be many contributors to this understanding of how we create our realities. There's going to be a huge leap in this, which is very empowering. Now, whenever we have strong Uranus aspects in astrology, the ruler of Aquarius, strong Aquarius energy, it's about aviation, because Uranus was the sky god. It's about aviation, space travel, acceleration in that. I do believe in the coming years we're going to see flying cars. Even, I think it was 2 years ago, an airport was being built in the north of England near Coventry for flying cars. That's highly achievable in the next few years. And Nassim Haramein is talking about anti-gravity transport. This is all within our reach. And so the nature of travel, particularly air travel, is going to change, I think, out of all recognition. Anti-aging technologies. I know this will be great news to many of you, because Aquarius is linked, and so is Uranus, linked to youth. We're moving away from the Capricorn. Think of chronology. It's ruled by Saturn, the old greybeards who've run our world. We're moving away from that towards youth. If you know any young people these days, the children and the young people are incredible in terms of their gifts and their understanding of the world. Really incredible. So we are going to see the world pivot around the young people much more with their brilliant ideas, their innovations of how we can clean up our world and make this a better place. And people will gather around them in teams and want to be part of that. And that is one big way how society will shift much more starting in 2024 and ongoing. Gradually, and I don't think this will be in a day, a week, a month, the power will shift to the people, because we've seen that historically every time Pluto has moved from Capricorn into Aquarius. So it's going to be moving away from a vertical top-down structure of inequality and elitism. And that's not only in power, but it's in wealth, moving towards a much more horizontal social structure, where it is going to be the people in their communities, their groups, their collaborations who come together and start to form new Earth. And that's going to be very exciting. And I've spoken in the past about one of the key examples of that being in 1789, when the peasants stormed the Bastille, took down the monarchy in France, and established France as a republic. And for the years after that, gradually a middle class grew up, which had never been known before. Small artisan businesses, small enterprises, small farms, the whole tax structure changed to benefit the poorer people. So we're going to see that big time. And I think the revision of our tax system, a revision of our whole economic system, our financial system is going to change massively. And we're absolutely on the edge, on the brink of that right now, as I'm recording this in early December. We're going to see a lot more around digitization of currencies. And although obviously there are huge efforts to make that centralized, the direction of travel for Aquarius is decentralized, always. Aquarius is about decentralization. There could even be microcurrencies, local currencies, or many areas will go back to barter because we're going to be sharing skills and sharing resources, and we will want to do that. We'll be much less territorial and protective about our wealth and our own resources. It's worth noting that Pluto, for 4 months of next year in January, September, October, and November, is going to be at 29 degrees of Capricorn, because it's going to be kind of hovering between end of Capricorn and beginning of Aquarius. 29 degrees of a sign is known as the anaretic degree, and it's usually when the shadow side of that sign is most strongly expressed, or the potential of that is to be strongly expressed. So in Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn has been about power over, top-down power, control over the population. So for those months, I think there will be greater attempts at holding the power, holding the control over the population. But because there's so much life force and astrological energy going into the Aquarius side and the power shifting to the people, those attempts will seem increasingly hollow. You know, we'll see the skinny wizard behind the curtain, and we will know that that we are building new Earth in every moment, and that's the focus. That's where the attention needs to go. But just be aware, Pluto's at that 29 degrees of Capricorn in those months. When Pluto changes sign, there's often a crisis around the symbolism of that sign within a few months. For instance, when Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, you'll all remember we had the financial crisis, because Capricorn is about big business, big banking, crisis in those areas. Aquarius is to do with the science and the technology and also truth. So there is likely in the coming months to be some crisis around the science, some crisis around technology, crisis around the truth. And that, I would say, is a great benefit to humanity. Because Pluto will always unearth what is not for our highest good. That's its purpose. That's its purpose as it progresses through any sign. So I think we are going to have, with Pluto in Aquarius, a lot more galactic news, connection, contact. There may be many of you who listen to people online who are channeling galactic beings, the Palladians, the Arcturians, the Andromedans, etc. A few years ago, they just didn't exist, but they're becoming much more common now, and we accept that. And we know we're made of stardust. We know that we've come from far galaxies. As I often say, even Professor Brian Cox tells us that, although he's absolutely no fan of astrology, that we are galactic beings. So this is not that beings of a different species are landing in a scary way. We are re-meeting our families. Think of it that way. And they are so benevolent. They have so much to teach us. They are helping us in every moment to go through this huge, I'm going to start to say metamorphosis, not just transformation, as we become much more multidimensional in our own expansion of consciousness. April is a huge month. And as I say, I just want to do broad strokes in this video, but April is a huge month. Every astrologer out there is going to be talking about April for two reasons. One, on the 8th of April, there's going to be the most powerful eclipse of the year, which is 19 degrees of Aries conjunct Chiron. And the fact it's conjunct Chiron means that there's great potential for collective healing. But this total solar eclipse falls, the eclipse path falls right across America. Now, on the 14th of October 2023, we had a total solar eclipse falling. The eclipse path was northwest to southeast across America. In fact, we go back to the total solar eclipse of 2017. It was a total solar eclipse. Eclipse path fell northwest to southeast across America. This one coming up on the 8th of April 2024 falls northeast to southwest across America. So the most recent one in October and the one in April are forming across over Texas, in fact. So that may suggest that something big is going to happen in Texas, or it becomes a major portal going forwards. But it's certainly where the eclipse path falls with eclipses highlights the geography of an area that will come into the news and come into a lot of change. Now, was 2017 a lot of change for America? You betcha. Just look at the politics. So, and because it's also linked in with the ongoing Pluto return for America, I think there are going to be massive changes for America. Economically, politically, in terms of its value system, in terms of its constitution, in terms of its geography. I've said this many, many times. What states make up the US? Some states may secede from the Union. I think that's very, very likely. The other reason that April is so big, and it isn't, this will overflow from April. It isn't just going to be April. We'll feel this energy building and gradually sort of falling away. But on the 20th, 21st, we have Jupiter conjunct Uranus. Now, Jupiter conjunct Uranus is a cycle, a repeating conjunction around every 14 years, but it hasn't happened in Taurus since 1941. So this is important. It happens at 20 to 21 degrees of Taurus. See where 20 to 21 degrees of Taurus falls in your own chart, because this is going to be a big deal. This is going to give us the opportunity of a big jump in consciousness. This is going to be potentially a shattering of belief systems that we've had in the past. But see what is going to be electrified and ignited for you and expanded. Which house in your birth chart is this affecting? 20 to 21 of Taurus. It may encourage you to take a lot of risks. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Uranus is the planet of awakening. This is going to further expand the collective awakening. Uranus is the planet of revolution and rebellion. Jupiter will expand the revolution and rebellion aspect of Uranus. If we look back in history to when there was another important Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, it was in 1968 to 69. Now, I don't know if you can remember then, if you were alive then, this was a massive time of protest all over the world. There were student sit-ins, there were gay right protests, women's rights protests, Black rights, Black movement, Black power movement, protests against the Vietnam War. I mean, there were political and social protests all over the world. That was at a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So that is likely to surge in around about April. Increased seismic activity, because Uranus is the planet of earthquakes, particularly when it's in Taurus, which has to do with the earth itself. We could have peak consciousness, peak experiences in our consciousness, because Jupiter represents higher consciousness and expansion, and Uranus represents higher mind, going beyond. Again, it's linked to the galactics, it's downloads, it's insights. So you put those two together and you've got a real explosion or quantum leap in our consciousness. And these two planets share a lot. They are both about freedom. They're both about the future. They're both about integrity, actually. And they are linked to not only truth and freedom, they're linked to originality, authenticity, being very creative, taking risks. And they're all about living with joy, living your unique essence in a bigger way, living with joy. And So this sense of being the visionary, being the explorer, going beyond anything you've ever done in your own life is really, really exciting. So don't hold back. Make the most of this incredibly exciting opportunity, and big opportunities and possibilities will be coming in for you the more you can step into that energy. Uranus is about living in the moment. It's not leaking power to the past or the future, living in the moment. So, and the more we can do this, the more it sharpens our intuition, it sharpens our discernment. And we could feel really electrified, very good word for Uranus, as to our future new possibilities coming in then. Step into that energy with excitement. It's also about electromagnetics. So is Aquarius in general as a sign. We are going to learn so much more about the fact the whole universe is electromagnetic. It's a great book, quite an old book now, called The Electric Universe. Well worth reading. But a much greater understanding will come to us that we are electromagnetic beings. Our thoughts, our electrical impulses, our emotions, our magnetic waves, together they form our electromagnetic toroidal field around our hearts, around our brains, that we beam out to the world. But the whole universe is one consciousness, one electromagnetic, a pulsing being, if you like. And we are a fractal in that. So we are going to get a much greater understanding of that. And I'm so excited by the work of Veda Austin, as you know, and I refer to her often because I think she's really pushing back the boundaries in this. But she was talking recently in a webinar just this past weekend of how she exposed water to some man-made electromagnetic frequencies, things like Wi-Fi and beyond Wi-Fi, that we're all aware of. We're going to get a much greater understanding of the negative effect, by the way, of those. Anyway, she exposed the water to that, and the water really degraded it. It made some quite distorted crystals, not the beautiful sort of flower shapes that she would expect from spring water. However, once she rested the water, she allowed it to defrost and rested it and then tried again, the water was more resilient in terms of how it could handle those negative EMFs. That is fascinating. The water had evolved. And beyond that, in the webinar just gone last weekend, I was listening to another one of her presenters in the webinar saying that even beyond that, that if you expose water to some, again, quite aggressive negative man-made EMFs, the water will eventually evolve to be able to cope with those electromagnetic frequencies and still produce beautiful crystals. The water has the intelligence, I mean, it's mind-blowing, isn't it? Has the intelligence to evolve beyond any harm. Now, in a sense, that's what we are doing as human beings, as liquid crystals, because by molecular count, we are 99% water. For instance, if a medieval person arrived on Earth, they would be utterly polaxed by the electromagnetic frequencies that are just in the soup all around us that we cope with day to day. And although, yes, it impacts us to some or a large extent, depending on where we live, we are able to nevertheless still cope with them. But what the experiments with water are suggesting is that ultimately water is the God conscious, I found this mind-blowing, the God consciousness, the intelligence within us to evolve us as the meat suit to be able to cope with this. And of course, going forwards, those negative EMFs will not exist in our world. You know, there will just be no need for those negative EMFs to exist. But that's a whole other tangent. But that's also how we will get a much greater understanding, because we often think, well, what can I as a single individual do? What difference can I make? Well, the reason you can make a difference is that if this entire cosmos is one intelligence, one consciousness, and we are a fractal of that, it's just like, I'm sure you've all seen cymatics where you scatter sand on a plate and then you produce sound waves, and the patterns of the sand on the plate will change according to the sound waves that you're aiming at it. Well, that's the same, really. that's happening in the universe, that we, with our specific electromagnetic fields, are constantly sending pulses into that one organism, that one consciousness. Because actually, and this came up in the webinar again at the weekend, everything is water. This whole universe is made of water because there are water droplets out there. Stars are constantly producing water. It's coming from deep space, from the asteroids, into different forms of liquid water, iced water, EZ, gel-like water that we have in plants and vegetables, etc. Many different stages and forms of water, but at the end of the day, we are just swimming in this electromagnetic energy, which is essentially comprised of water. And that's why Veda's work, I think, is pushing the boundaries and helping us understand that we are little fractals. So the butterfly's wings theory now is starting to have some legs, if that isn't mixing too many metaphors here, of how we as individuals can affect the quantum wave structure and raise the energy of the collective, raise the frequency of the collective. I hope I'm making sense here. So I'm kind of joining together a lot of different modalities and understandings. So April will be a particularly big month. We could see some big developments in our understanding, also of quantum physics, because that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is very allied. If we go back in history, and I'll do more detail of this in a separate video closer to April, how the developments in quantum physics have leapt ahead, another quantum term, leapt ahead with Jupiter-Uranus conjunctions. So quantum physics, revolution and rebellion, truth coming to light, aviation, developments in space travel, whatever, and our consciousness, of course. And very soon after that, Jupiter will move in May into Gemini, very different energy from Taurus. Boy, that will add to the speed of events. As Jupiter expands, and Gemini is about our minds, about communication, about social media, we could start to feel a sense of overwhelm with all the information coming in. So go back to your anchor, go back to your center, close your eyes, drop into your breath. Simple, simple, simple stuff, all for free. It's the stuff I do all the time, you know, really elementary, basic stuff to act as your anchor when a lot of information is coming in. Because remember also, with the increasing involvement of AI, we're not going to know what's true and what's not. An even better reason to choose your reality, your frequency, and dominate it from the inside out. Because we're not going to even know, you know, what's fully true. It's going to be quite dazzling out there. And I also want to say that if I was doing this as an astrologer even a few years ago, I would be saying things like Jupiter moving into Gemini will bring about more social media channels and even more internets. I don't think we'll just have one internet going forwards. There will be more than one. There will be several. And they will be more protected, if you understand my meaning, more private. And the reason technology, I think, will jump such a lot as well. Just going back to that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we have in April. Steve Jobs, who invented Apple, was born with a conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus. So was Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the World Wide Web. So if you want to look at two giants, two heavyweights in people who have helped advance technology and the internet, they're two very good examples. But Jupiter in Gemini will expand social media, internets for sure. But I think particularly because Pluto is also in Aquarius, and by June, Jupiter will be in a very positive trine to Pluto in Aquarius. This is going to bring in more galactic information, more multi-dimensional information. I wouldn't have said that's an astrologer a few years ago. It would have been much more same old, same old. It's a different league now. It's a whole different game that we're moving into. I do think with the input of detail and information available to us, for some people, if they're not well anchored, it could result in more mental illness. I do think we'll see more mental illness in the world. That's why I'm saying all of these things to you now about find these simple ways to anchor. I do think we'll continue to see more extreme Earth events. April is a big month because of the eclipses, because Jupiter's going to expand the seismic effect of Uranus. Also in July, we have a powerful conjunction between Mars and Uranus at 26 of Taurus. Mars will energize Uranus further. And then looking down the timeline just a short way, because I'm going to be doing the detail of this much more with Kathy Rose at the turn of the year. In September, we have a lunar eclipse in Pisces. That's the odd one out in the eclipses for the year. At 25 of Pisces conjunct Neptune. Now, Pisces is already has the generalized meaning of flooding and things like that. Because it's conjunct the ruler of Pisces, I think we could see a lot around water, around flooding, around toxicity that Neptune is very linked to, around medicines, around any illusion or deceit or veil or that kind of thing coming to light in a bigger way around September. And a little bit like Pluto, through 2024, Neptune is going to spend a lot of time at the anaretic degree of Pisces, in this case, 29 degrees of Pisces. And so that will throw up exactly some of the same issues as I've just referred to then. So, but that is the very last degree of the zodiac. And with so much happening in terms of the collapse of the old world happening in 2024, for some people, it may feel with that last degree of the zodiac as if we're going through the end of the world. But I really want to say to you, it's not the end of the world, it's the end of a world, for sure. It's the end of the old world that we've had for thousands and thousands of years. And it's happening at speed. And 2024 is a pivotal year in this. Are things going to be turbulent? Are things going to be chaotic? 100%. Absolutely. Betcha. No way around that. Because so much of the old systems, structures, power structures have to collapse in order to birth the new fully. Don't give it your attention. The more you can, because the life force, the astrological energy, all the ancient prophecies have been talking about this, moving to a more loving world, a more loving earth with new earth. Keep your focus and attention there. Will we be aware of the collapse? Yes, we will. But the more it's, like this walking between two worlds, like the glass panel, is like being in an airport and you can see through all the glass windows to this other world that's happening there, the chaos in the baggage reclaim area, as it were. So you can witness it, and Magenta Pixie in her beautiful channeling has talked about this. You can witness that collapse of the old world. You don't have to fully partake in it because your focus and attention is on building the new. And I'm going to keep banging that drum as often as I can to really help people keep their focus and attention on what we're building, because it's going to be exciting. But it will be turbulent, it will be chaotic, things will break down, things won't work. Take all that chaos as signals. It's another point in the relay race that, yep, that should happen. Look at the astrology for reassurance. Yep, astrology said that would happen, and that would happen, and that would happen. Astrology is so helpful as our cosmic weather forecast. So even though things aren't fully comfortable at the 3D level, the more we can keep our frequency high, we can bubble wrap ourselves from the worst excesses of living in that turbulence. And I absolutely believe that in my bones. So how do we best navigate 2044? Looking at just at these broad strokes that I've talked about today. How do we best navigate it? Number one, lock onto love as your docking station. Lock onto love. And here I'm not just talking about that romantic love that we've all felt in our lives. I'm not even talking about love as a state of being that the wonderful Dr. David Hawkins talked about in his brilliant work. with a map of consciousness. He talked about love as a state of being. What I'm talking about here is probably what not many people so far have experienced, which is a sense of absolutely pure source love, of divine love. More and more of us are going to start to experience that, because those people who've experienced it, even just for short periods of time, are completely transformed by it. That's what I mean by lock onto love as a docking station. Because once you've experienced that, it's much harder to go back into judgment and duality and anger and fear and all of those really low frequency emotions. So lock onto love as your docking station. Number 2, join with like-minded others. Online, if you can, we have that very simple 15-minute meditation on a Sunday evening 7 p.m. UK time, just to magnetize and energize and envisage new earth. You can do that, and people are having very rich experiences with that. Or ideally, link with other people who are like-minded in person. And these groups are all over the world now. I've referred to them many times. People are coming together, they're buying land, they're growing food. In some cases, they're buying land to live on and share resources. More and more and more that is going to happen. So the more you can do that, the better. Thirdly, live with much greater awareness of your thoughts and your emotions through the day. Post-it notes trick all over your house. What are you thinking? And live with much greater intentionality from now on. I mean, all through my day, when I'm cleaning my teeth, having a shower, preparing food, I make sure that positive mantras, positive intentions are rolling around my brain like rosary beads. You know, I'm already stepping onto my highest timeline of love, that kind of thing. I'm already living in love, peace, and bliss. I'm already living in love, peace, and bliss. So always present tense, as if it's already easily happening. So you find your mantra that you want to pursue. I'm already becoming a more joyful person. I'm already becoming a more loving person. And just watch what happens in your world, how fast those changes happen for you. And don't forget that wonderful thing to have in your toolkit, the Ho'oponopono Hawaiian forgiveness prayer. I have laughed out loud, literally, at the effect that that has when I've sometimes been in what appears to be an intractable situation, and I can't think my way out of it. I will just repeat Ho'oponopono, and I'll put a link for that below as well. There'll be a lot of links below here. It's a Hawaiian forgiveness prayer. It's a very simple 4-line stanza, really, and you think this can't possibly work, but just roll it around your brain and direct it at a person, a situation, whatever you need to resolve. It could be a health issue even, and keep rolling it around your head. And the effect, as I said, I've literally laughed out loud. It's like a cosmic joke sometimes. Okay, guys, thank you for that. That was a real miracle. So that's something else to have in your toolkit. And I will be mentioning many other things, of course, as we go through 2024, but it is going to be exciting. It's going to be a year, as I said, collective awakening, of revolution, of possibility, opportunity, and have that lens set up as you go through. That energy shift has started already. As I say, last couple of days have been incredible, I think, in terms of my own sense of the energy shift, and many, many people are referring to it around me, but also in what I'm actually seeing manifest in the world already. And that will become clearer and clearer, I think, as the days and weeks go on. And 3 years ago, I was saying that I really didn't think it would take years and years and years of slog in linear time to solve all the problems we have in the world. And I've really stuck to that. And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew it was something to do with the light, something to do with the physics of light and the cosmology. And yes, it could be very much part of the blue light surges, which we're seeing now. It could be part of the photonic light, the high frequency photonic light as the Earth moves through the photon belt. But about 3 years ago, I developed that phrase of the light is the game changer and love is the checkmate. And I believe in that even more firmly now than I did 3 years ago. Because I think we are going to get to a very different place very rapidly, the more of us that can come online and really feel that momentum of, boy, this is the most exciting time to be alive. So broad strokes at this stage, but I just wanted to share those thoughts with you before we got into 2024. And I really hope that's helped you. Going to have a lot of videos coming in the coming weeks. So I just send you all my love. And again, because I'm making this in December, just thank you a millionfold for all your love, your care, your good wishes. And it really does feel like a family of frequency that we're building to get to a much kinder, more loving place. Always be kind. Always remember, do everything with kindness. Always be kind. God bless. Bye for now, and have a wonderful festive season if you celebrate that. Bye for now. Thank you for listening.